that so we're like sharing with this mathematics department the floor, and
Right.
so we're trying to like talk to them. And what there are some social people, and one of them, I think she has a kid, and like there was like no kindergarten or like not like a school last week, and the kid was just hanging out here, and like a few days ago she came to like Nuno and me and told that her child thought that I'm a son of Nuno.
Ah,
That was hilarious. That was hilarious.
ah, ah, that's very funny. Um,
I know.
um, so you might have to start treating Nuno with respect.
Well, do you respect your father? That's the question.
Uh, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know, like from my from information that I have, like I think like in Asian culture, like there is this thing of like the I don't know with the honor of I don't know,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of this thing about so your father make him
Yeah.
proud.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Not so much in our family, but yeah, I know that it's like yeah, we have this weird dynamics anyways.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so also with your brother also leaving you. Like I'm going back to Japan. Bye.
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
anyways, yeah.
okay, let's go back this to catch up. Like, I think I'm very happy with the conversation.
Yep.
Because this was always talking about legal stuff is tricky. But it's good that everybody understand what is it.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, also
Now
we
I'm
knew that
thinking
we
that
needed to talk. Yeah.
yeah, now that I'm thinking that when we start talking, but that's what I mentioned that so because initially we proposed like to have 4 working sessions in August, but I think is overkilling. But um so I say like my initial idea is like to move these 2 sessions to before.
Yeah.
Uh but I think it's good that I mentioned like more like maybe 2.5, could be even 3, some because of the yeah the space. I think that'll be very complicated. I mean the mediation of having a third eye when it's not there.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
something like
yep.
sorry that I just round this. So something that I want, I think it's good that maybe I start thinking in this. Maybe we can share it with Danny. But I guess it has to be first like talk with you. Is that we might have to start thinking based of all the information that we share. Um, that I mean, in this idea of success, with capital letter or like quote unquote, like, are we aiming to succeed? Are we aiming to do something good? Say for instance, like I was aiming, I guess unconsciously or consciously in Ljubljana to do something good in short time because I wanted to be part of the tour. So part of like when I was proposing things in certain way is like trying to perform good to be selected. Now that we are like at the other side, understanding the kind of work we do, then maybe we can go back to that conversation and understand that, uh, yeah, what we do is, yeah, it has, I mean, it has this quality. So yeah, just to go back like to the idea of the success, can we get rid of this idea of success and just like work? Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I guess anyways, we have to like constantly question because, we want to do it good in a way that's good for us, right? And then, there's also like we're two of us, three of us working together, and we don't always agree, and we have to come back to all these thoughts, is it where what are we aiming for, or yeah, but I guess that's a practice. I mean, just we have to learn by doing, and it's gonna
But
be
maybe that's important. Maybe that's important, like to say like it's just I guess like my base or like my information now is, or when I'm comparing, is from the process in Ljubljana. That I'm very happy from what we got at the you know, what we have at the end. It already is like the skeleton of a piece in itself. Um, so in that sense, like the piece, so I'm happy. So we did a good job internally, but also I think from outside the piece performed okay. It was, I will say it was good. Um, but that said, then maybe we were working towards a piece. So like we were not practicing that much. So maybe we can think again on this idea of the practice, or just question, you know, that are what are gonna present is a practice, or what is it, you know?
yeah, yeah. I think it makes sense. Yeah, I guess like also like I felt, I think I shared before, but it felt like kind of, how to say, we're kind of a little bit like stepping back and try to, well, not to try to be nice to each other, but I felt a bit of this explosion didn't really happen, or we were kind of like constantly checking with each other, which is important, but how can we break the dynamics in a way that we can do the
But what do you
practice
mean? I think I got lost when you said explosion. In what context?
in a sense that like something that is uh, I don't know how to say it. Like I cannot go full on because I felt like we are like constantly checking it with each other. Is it okay? Is it right? I don't know. That's
Mm.
how somehow like I felt, but also like I think we have to like just practice it, and in time we just get used to it. And what's the boundary? Like I felt like we're a bit more like conservative in a way that we didn't really cross the boundary, which is okay, but also we could go a little bit further. But I guess that's
Sí.
something we were like conscious that we wanted to have this performance in the end. And that's also valid because it's also good because now we tried it. So we have ideas like feedback from that, and we can do it better, quote unquote. So yeah,
Sí.
again, I guess we just have to like it will be nice if yeah, but anyways, I think on Monday we talk with Danny and we start to also like we have to think if is it going to be like uploaded online, is this going to be uploaded online,
Mm.
because that's another part of the practice.
What do you mean?
Chat,
What we gonna upload online?
the videos, like
Oh, like the dramaturgical process.
the chat, yeah,
Mm. Yeah, I guess we have to talk. I mean, now involve Danny, so
exactly.
I guess like more in an early stage, no, because then otherwise I feel that we will, especially with a third person, no, because now I guess we have this practice where even when we are, yeah, I think it's different. We have this practice of working with the video and publishing content. So I guess unconsciously also we choose our words and also trying to be generous with ourselves in the space. But I guess with a third person that might just hold her back. If we said like, okay, we're gonna publish this and then start working, maybe she might hold things. And
Yeah,
I like that.
I totally agree. But at the same time, I think it's hard to switch it at one point, right? If we start not publishing, then it will not publish throughout the process. I feel because I mean, or we just have to set it up so that there is a chat that will be uploaded, but it's like a one-off thing. I mean,
I
it's
think,
something we have to talk.
maybe the easiest way will be You know, for instance, like already we have the experience with Danny. The first meeting we have, we said at the beginning, the three of us at the end we will decide if we publish or not. And during the conversation, then at some point, even she was mentioned also, I guess this is more like a common feeling, you know, because when she mentioned also I felt like uh yeah, that maybe that's not true because I feel actually that we should publish that.
Yeah,
But she mentioned at some point at the end like I guess we're not publishing this because we were speaking about like just the office thing.
yeah,
Um, which the thing is like we understand that sometimes it's part of the chat, no, trying to
yeah,
disclose this privacy.
yeah,
So maybe the easiest way to go is that as if it happens, so there is no pressure as if we want it or not, but that we keep an eye during the, I mean, we is meaning like she doesn't have to do that exercise. I guess if she's more often in these meetings, she might get more aware of that. But I think that she should not carry that load of thinking and choosing her words in order to be published, you know. So that's more like an exercise that we can have on mind. And often we find then are at the end of the session in an organic manner to check with everybody. What do you guys feel? I think this that we talk. I mean, the idea of uploading also is we share things that we think they are relevant for other people, right? So if there is content that might not be relevant for other people, then maybe we don't share it, right? Which is
but
what we do.
who never, yeah, like, I mean, we never know. I mean, yeah.
My Nuno might be checking all the videos down from now. Maybe now when he falls asleep now just he puts the and he just falls asleep while listening to the chats.
Nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's close. Should I
Uh,
upload this? I want to upload this. It's kind of
yeah, I
nice.
mean
Yeah.
we're totally fine.
Yeah. Should we prepare for Monday? I feel we need to, but also like I don't know if I
I
have
have
time.
some notes from that is more, but I because I think this should start. This is part of what I guess I the part of the message that I said to you, like check this audio message, and I also it's good that I think that I mentioned also to Danny, like we talked also in the past that this is it's gonna be a process for the three of us, so it's our work, like you are, I mean, best practices, um, but we have to understand then it's toward this performance. um I also understand that we have individualities that I think we should start negotiating on the space while with her, and that means doesn't have to be everything, you know, because she doesn't have to take that role of psychologist. I hope it's not, but my I was just reflecting on that in my notes also that I think I see her in an early stage as a partly, maybe that's not the word, psychology is really bad, but like a mediator between formalism of between subjective formalism, you know, like you and me, that normally we, I mean, we share the space and we don't formalize this. It's not coming often in forms that we just develop this language and we just within culture we we do or not do things. But I think in this exercise of formalism or making concrete things, especially with words, we will have to um yeah, challenge each other. And I think that's part of going back what you were saying, which I agree. If we speak, for instance, of the piece itself in Ljubljana, we were very conservative. Um, and that was part of the feedback that was useful, that they were mentioning that we can push more the boundaries of these, which I think we will need to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I guess what you said, I mean, also like we don't have to be like conscious about, you know, like formalizing or not, because anyways, we have to talk with her, like whoever that third person is, and we have fourth person probably that anyways, we have to communicate. And I think what's important is that not just to, you know, like, I mean, of course, the objective is to have communication with them, but then what's the kind of byproduct? And actually, there was like a really good that I interviewed one of the interviewees of my study. They shared that I think I told you before that they work with a lot of like with musicians because they work with like really like techno, like dancey music that they create for the show, and they kind of develop the language through the communication. You
What
know,
do you
so
mean?
like
Which
because
communication? Like
they're coming
language?
from a dance, yeah, like language, like you know, all the vocabulary in that sense of like language that because they're coming from dance, but you know you have to somehow translate it to music, but you know, and the musicians don't necessarily know about dance, so they have to like build up the language or the vocabulary, and I think that's kind of common process in any interdisciplinary work. But what they're doing is to write about it and publish it as an online magazine, and
Mm.
that's like a huge respect because I think that's takes a lot of like extra work, but you know, sharing it with others. I should actually like, go through it because I haven't really read through the magazine. I can also send it to you.
Mm.
And we should think about it too, because also that's related to my research. But yeah, how can we translate it? So it's not just about talking with Danny or Robbie and developing the vocabularies, but like how can we put it open so that other people can have access, which doesn't mean that
You mean
it's
like so
useful
like
for
the
others.
meta information,
Yeah, like how we develop the
the
vocabulary or
process. Yeah,
what
yeah, the
is that,
process.
but yeah, it's not so much about it, the vocabulary itself, but also this can tell the story about best practices as well, right? Because it's I mean, we had this conversation like I don't know 3 years ago, but like how do we communicate with others? And
Mhm.
this it's a good exercise so that not just Danny wrote about us, but you know, like develop something that we have like deeper understanding and also deeper understanding of ourselves as well
Yeah,
through this communication, and not just having it as our knowledge, but putting it online would be online or I don't know to the
yeah.
show it to the
Also because
public.
it will help like in the reflexive exercise of, when somebody asks you what is it you're doing, then you can
Mm,
just, if you are in that exercise of reflecting, you will find more words in your vocabulary to use.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
true.
I know that this has been like constantly changing, like for you, for me. But yeah, that will be interesting. But yeah, everything's interesting. We have to like choose what to do. That's it.
Everything is interesting. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So shall
Yeah,
we find time? I think tomorrow I'm not going to be available. I'm hoping to do a studio visit for the whole day, but maybe Sunday I have time, I guess.
when? Wait, so again, so you say tomorrow, no. Tomorrow is Saturday and Sunday. Hey, William, you can see me. Hey, yes, you see me. Um, Tomorrow, no, but you said like maybe on Sunday, right?
Yeah, that will be better
That
for me.
that could work for me, but if we do like early, because like my weekends I try to be open to be with Eva, to try to not work on the weekends.
Yeah, I
So
think
but
that's a good
normally I
idea.
wake up early. Like Eva will be sleeping like until 10, 11, and I'm waking up at 6:37. So if we can try to meet maybe at 10, I think could work.
Yeah, actually, that's
Or
even like late for me because it's 11. And I mean, I wake
yeah,
up also early. So, I
yeah, I
mean, no,
wouldn't
no,
say
no, it's fine. Like
yeah, okay,
10 for
yeah,
you
because
is
I
fine.
wouldn't say like 9 because then I still need to
Yeah,
like go and run and to take my
yeah,
time to, yeah.
totally.
Okay, so we said Sunday at 10.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Good.
And then maybe, you know, I'm also start collecting like what are like these wishes of desires of um for this process. To be honest, like I start feeling kind of like, you know, like butterflies in my stomach. Like because this is a new process. We will have a third eye. We haven't been in this process. Um and so it's like at this point is so you said everything is interesting. For me is more like I'm feel like what's gonna happen. Yeah, because we might, yeah, hopefully it will be challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, to me, everything is challenging right now. So let's
All
see.
right.
Yeah.
So cool. I'm gonna see today. I don't know if you know who is Silvia Federici. She's one of like the main voices of feminism at some point. She wrote like kind of like one of these big texts. I mean, they're very important in feminism. And she will be, yeah, I will go and see her. Um,
Yeah.
Danny.
Cool.
Okay. So
Great.
yes, also to say like it's very interesting the process that you are. It's interesting, but it's also interesting to see like how you're reflecting because at the end you need to come down from ideas to what comes to the paper. So it's interesting to somehow be part of that process. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot. It's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. So
But it's
especially with these
it,
papers, like I start putting, for instance, like I have a. It's interesting because you're doing this process. Like I haven't, I guess, yeah, because I haven't, yeah. I like when you send me some papers are really specific in this cross section. Um, so they're very. I start putting them in a different category. I have all my text in one category, and there comes everything, different fields. But then this is very interesting. Not necessarily as if it's good or bad, but just to see how people reflect and formalize these thoughts and then share it with other ones. That often, to be honest, like from the two things that you shared just now, I'm thinking like, what the fuck are these people are talking about? You know, I just read also the abstract, I'm like just like, but this is like it's been like what I read is most of the time I'm quite uh uh raw or like while I'm reading, I'm constantly like but and so it's more like the more than 60-70% of the time when I'm reading, I'm thinking like these people, this is just not true. Um but I really appreciate like so it's interesting to understand why this is accepted as a why this is accepted. So in that regard, I found interesting that you mentioned that for instance, in the case in the last paper is because maybe they have their name. So although, and that was a good point that maybe people don't understand them, but they are who they are. So this is this is genius from that space of just genius things like this, and we don't understand you. Good, this is good.
yeah. I mean, during the review process, they will be anonymized, but I'm pretty sure like if they read it, like, probably it's coming from those people and they're, I mean, you can't just write random text like that. So, I mean, but then also like the question is like who understands? And also I was reading another paper, I didn't send it to you, but from the same group of people, but like 2016. And that study is basically what I'm doing right now, just like interviewing 6 choreographers and finding patterns or like strategies of like choreographing, with a notebook and so on.
Mm,
That's very interesting. And that paper is like super easy to read. I mean, not just because what I'm doing, it is what I'm doing, but also it's very pragmatic that you can
okay,
really understand, okay, yeah,
okay,
you draw these lines, you draw the space, draw the, movement, and there's a process of rehearsing and ideation and rehearsing. And, after the show, you reflect. It's very concrete in a way. But then like after 8 years, they, write a paper about their reflection connected to their studies, to the philosophy, to like everything. Of course, it's really entangled because they have this history
Right.
that, yeah,
Right.
in a way that it's not just like you, because I always thought like if you read a paper, you have to go through the references as well, which is exhausting task, but also like, what they wrote before, which is not necessarily cited by the paper, actually influences a lot to understand the context. And I mean, that's the research, I guess. But yeah, we can go on about this a lot, but
No, but
maybe on
at that point,
maybe we can talk
that
a bit
what
later.
maybe just also before we close, I think I want to add that because I think it's in short, what it happens is close to what is described this idea of like the curse of dimensionality. Um, that I think sometimes I share with you. In wait, I just gonna not get lost. It refers to various phenomena that arise when analyzing and organizing data in high dimensional spaces that do not occur in low dimensional settings. So, say like, yeah, so like just from like that point of information or mathematics, I guess it goes in some places I don't know, but just from in the conversation is I heard also from people who are working with they joke as like the curse of dimension of interdisciplinarity is that the once you really go in a high level, the more you put things, the more complex are. So it's fine when you don't have to formalize things. If you are say like in the experience as such, is fine because then you just need to use your sense making to just navigate the space. But if you need to formalize that and then share it into thoughts, then if it's like say through academic language, which I think that's the point, like it just language gets always short. Like it will always be short into you will find always it can do only too much. At the end is symbolic representation of something that is happening. So it cannot give full account of the experience. You can do different kind of pirouettes in to try to situate the experience, but it will always get short into what just happened. Um, yeah. So they refer this, maybe this idea could be interesting for us to think like this idea of the manifold uh, that they refer often in mathematics, uh, because they, yeah, because the multiplicity and the multiple possibilities that it does carry. Yeah, the complexity of a manifold, of the multiple dimensionality,
Yeah, I guess, but yeah, this is something I can't really articulate. Um, but what happens is that like there are ways to reduce the dimensionality, right? I mean, the thing is that if you look at these different dimensions, they're not like equally distributed. Like if there's like
no,
I don't know, like it's hard to tell it like in a flat like words, but I mean the whole point of like machine learning is to reduce the dimensionality, right? Because you come with like all the data, metadata that comes with like thousands of dimensions. But the idea of like, the Google search or something is that you want to find the commonality, and you weight strategies to reduce the dimension so you can
yeah,
like map it out on a 2D space, for example.
yeah,
And I think in a meta level, it's just like analogy, but these genius people, or like what I have to develop is to find this like intuition that can sort of like reduce the dimensionality in a way, so that if you can find what is connected, for example, from HCI to like not just like dive into the whole spectrum of let's say like philosophy, but you can pinpoint. I mean, but that's like what you have to like. I guess you have to read and talk to people and develop the kind of intuition to find what would be interesting, and then you don't have to search everything.
Yeah, but this is interesting because this is like, I mean, that's what I like. That's what I think also Danny find interesting. This is in her own words. So I guess this idea of transition, because this is what you're talking about. So, and the transition is this invisible labor, is like, because transition is like, is not coming through formalism. Nevertheless, you need to find words to point out why is that connects this point at this point. So this point at this point, for the stakeholders are acknowledged as something true, but what connects it is something that is in between, and this in betweenness is something that is nor this nor that. So it's something that is potentiality in itself. Um, but then is then to find what is the symbolic representation that the transition takes. So if you use language, what is the word that can connect this point at this point?
Interesting, because in a way, like if you, yeah, like you can only imagine what you can imagine, right? So like if you just work with the language, then it's hard to find this in between. You have to like work with your, I don't know if it's an intuition or like this non-verbal or non-language level. You have to find this something in between. But then if you want to publish it or if you want to communicate, you have to put it to the language again. Although you can decide, if you're a visual artist, then you can probably make some kind of form out of it. Or,
Yeah,
but that's not what artists do, I guess, or performance.
but it's like, I mean, at some point I was reading that somebody was saying that like artists are, they are in a way philosophers, but they do not have the practice of uh putting their reflections into a formal set of explanatory sense. Like an artist might have a diary which understand itself with but it will be very difficult or is complicated to listen to an artist uh in the way how they work. While in philosophy, then you can see like the projects of philosophy, they go in it really in entangled places in their projects, but they're really concrete from where are they coming from. So they constantly go back, and when they introduce new concepts, it's based on somebody, and then based on that they will find problems in their projects, and they say like, yeah, but maybe this guy missed that point. And so based in this idea of reflection, then I can say reflection is reflection, new reflection, or something like that. And the
Mm.
artist is doing that, but of course, like, especially if you, I mean, if you have not necessarily training, but just experience in doing art, you have references of art. So our art is never new art, is always influenced by other artists. So you are doing the referencing, but you are not situating the people that you are seeing your work, right?
Right. And also it's like the reference can be someone's work, but also your experience or like anything, basically, right?
Totally.
And that makes it very complex. I still like come back to this idea that Caroline Sinders was saying that like she's building this feminist data set and she does this workshop and you can cite like anything, if it's like an email or if it's like a conversation with someone, you can cite anything in that workshop and as a, to feed to this hypothetical database, which I found it's interesting because now I'm in a position that I can't do that. I mean, I have to do it in a, in a bit awkward way, but I can't build this, whatever I do based on references to the conversation with you, conversation with that person. If it's like a one quote that I want to put in an article, probably it's okay. Especially with the conversation with you, it's all upload online, so I can just put a URL. But as an artist, I'm constantly doing, and probably like 95% of the references come from my experience or chat with someone, what I see, but that's not valid. Yeah, not valid in the academic sense of, well, like at least in the scientific sense. and how can I, actually, I'm really conscious about this now because, for example, the paper I shared with you, no, not the one that I shared with you, but the same people wrote in 2016 about interviewing choreographers. I think they
Can you share that
cited.
Can you share that with
I
me?
will
So
do. I will do. That's
yeah,
easy to go through. So and also you can relate a lot. There was something that they referred to someone talking, or like, because I'm becoming more like judgmental, like, is it something that, I don't know, if William Forsythe did something, that it does have to come from the literature, or is it okay if you cite, I don't know, someone's speech
about his
or about his work, or is it okay to cite my conversation with David on the reflection of, Foresight Company? I don't know. But I'm just like, conscious about this, like when I
yeah.
read paper, like where it's coming from, because I'm not saying that it has to come from the literature, but then how can they frame, if it's a conversation with a choreographer, how can they frame it in the way that it's valid to be cited in the paper? Sorry, it was really, really specific thing that I was just talking about.
No, but if I understood correct, from what you're saying is that, uh, can you try to reframe this that you said again in short? Like, what is that you're saying?
So how can I cite a fact from my experience or conversation with someone in an academic article? And
So
that's
your
very,
interpret. So you're talking about your interpretation.
it's not even interpretation, but like, how can I make it valid? That, for example, the conversation with you happened right now. How can I put it in an article? And there are ways to do it. But
Yeah.
then I can't just say like footnote, this is a conversation with Jorge. It has to be, validated in a way. There are different ways to do it, and people have
Yeah.
different practices. And this
Yeah.
is very relevant because I'm also coming from, different backgrounds, and I'm studying people, but also I have my own perspective. And this is something I noticed that is not negligible. I'm not just like a random researcher who's interviewing dancers, but I'm also experiencing this as a, part of my practice to move and dance. And that is also valid. I mean, as an artist, it's completely valid, but in the academic sense, how can I make it valid?
I see. Yeah. Yeah, but as you said, I guess like there are already I guess people have their own practices. I'm not sure then if there is already, I guess there should be ways how, because it's about somehow you speak somehow about methodology in one sense, but I also am aware that in saying that it also gets short. It will be always short-sighted, uh, especially if the medium is words in a paper. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I think it's because I think in a paper like straightforward is just through situating through uh citations, no? And that's, for instance, like part of the text who Danny wrote at some point. She was saying like, I don't know, that's come from, she just cites or work, so she was not citing a text or something, but just like or work, for instance, like something that is her subjective understanding that is important because of this, and then she comes back to text.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Wow.
Okay, this is the closing
Okay, I think
word.
it's time to close.
Okay, thanks for
All
watching.
right. Sorry you didn't get that. So next time, let's try this.